will earnings steer Nifty higher? And are we in for a repeat of bout of short covering in names like Reliance and in private banks, considering that Reliance has just caught up last week and private banks are still being laggards and the bank Nifty is not at a 52-week high post the numbers. So why are we discussing numbers this week? Well, it's largely because of the composition of the numbers which would be coming out, or composition of companies which would be coming out with numbers. You got HDFC Bank today, 13.5% weightage. Reliance later this week, 9% weightage. ICICI Bank, Kotak and HUL, 7%, 3% and 2.5% weightage, which means broadly 35% of the Nifty 50 will be coming out with numbers this week. That is something which is going to be important. There you go, HDFC Bank 13, Reliance 9.2 and ICICI Bank 7.4. So I'm going to just invite Kunal also to join in the discussion, and we'll take this theme forward, which is that are we in for a repeat of short covering in some of the stocks. So Kunal, everybody wants to know that these are the heavyweights which are coming out with numbers. And IT short covering has spoiled everyone, which is that you bought a little bit of bad news. And if you really believe that the turn is around the corner, IT stocks, at least on Friday and Monday, they really did a somersault.
Correct.
So are private banks also in for similar move? Because frankly, ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank have underperformed.
Yeah, they've underperformed, but the dynamics when we look at the trade setup is completely different, Nikunj. So, same time last week, I think we were discussing
Infosys call was a big call.
Yeah, so we were discussing that the IVs for these stocks were almost 28, 28.5, 27.5. The IVs for HDFC Bank is 21.5 to 22.
What does that mean?
So it indicates that people are not going with any extreme kind of expectations, which means that the stock ideally should not trade with a 2% or a 3% gap up or gap down move for HDFC Bank. Same is the case with Reliance. In fact, the IVs for Reliance are much lower than HDFC Bank so far. So that also indicates that the expectations for Reliance going forward is a bit more tepid this time around.
ICICI Bank?
I've not seen the charts, the exact data for ICICI Bank in terms of the IVs, but then when I look at the prospects of these two formidable names, my expectation is that it could be around 20 to 24.
Okay, now I'll be very specific here. Let's look at Reliance and then we look at banks. So specifically when it comes to Reliance, what are the factors which are at play? Of course, in terms of the O2C segment, expectations are that it could be a drag. In terms of gas exploration, everyone is expecting that it again is going to be flat. But specifically when it comes to retail and telecom, I guess there could be steady growth on growth. Now, there are two ways of looking at Reliance. Number one, the move has already happened. Kunal feels that we are not in for a pre or post-result move. But are we in for a post-result sell-off for Reliance?
Doesn't look like, Nikunj, because this 200-point rally which has happened pre-result, from 2600 to so far 2800, it's actually given a cushion to the stock. And rarely we've seen Reliance going into a result on a rally, and post-rally it's almost sell-off and compensated for the entire rally. It's almost given up the entire rally. It's not happened for Reliance Industries so far in the last, I think, so many quarters which I have tracked.
The other one is HUL. Muted volume growth. Again, stock's been like a laggard. It has given advantage of benign raw material prices, and the commentary on demand in a sense would be increasing. Why am I bringing HUL? Because if you frankly look at stocks like HUL, Nestle, Dabur, Britannia, this is one pocket which is not at a 52-week high. With the exception of, let's say, Tata Consumer, none of the large FMCG stocks are anywhere close to the 52-week high. So let's look at that table. All of them are down.
Exactly.
And they are not down in a meaningful manner. But again, with HUL, there are no expectations.
Yes.
Could it be the reverse?
It could be the reverse with HUL, because when we look at the charts for the other names, Dabur, then you look at Britannia, many of these stocks have actually done very well. So I think in that regards, HUL has been an underperformer since last 3-4 months, which means that the scope of a surprise on a positive side is pretty much higher.
What about ITC?
I think ITC is still into a range. So even the data right now, so what had happened was ITC at 470, 475, where it's trading, there has been two strikes of options, 450 and 500, which have become hub for option writing, which means traders are going into the results expecting that it may not be a more than 3 or 4% up move or down move for ITC, which means largely it should be range bound.
Okay, so let's look at the blank sheet, and we're going to use the pen again just to establish that some of the thoughts which we have now, and we're purely talking about the near term. I think on Thursday we discussed with Kunal that there is a trade which is coming in Infosys. And Friday that trade I think just worked like a charm. So Kunal, thank you for that. Now let's look at the trade, Kunal. First I will look at Reliance. You think there is no result trade?
No result trade, but no bearish also.
Okay. No trade.
Yeah.
Okay. HUL, there is a trade.
On the bullish side.
Okay. Right. And then you what?
HDFC Bank. This could also be very neutral, I would say.
I could again say no trade.
No trade.
So guys, just note it down. Kunal feels that in Reliance there is no trade. HUL, there could be a positive trade, so you buy it even after a gap up.
Yes.
And HDFC, there again could be no trade.
Yes. In fact, for HUL, if the stock actually gaps up by even a couple of percentage points, that's a very good sign.
That means you should buy the trade.
You should definitely buy the trade.
Now let's look at HDFC Bank, and what am I trying to summarize here? Let's look at the intraday graph. My point is very simple in HDFC Bank, which is, thank you Kunal, which is that HDFC Bank has not disappointed. 5-6 quarters on the row, it has just been a steady performer. Now Infosys surprised everybody, Wipro just stunned everybody, HCL Tech stunned everybody. HDFC Bank is not going to do anything special, and if there is a pre-result number, I think they've already given you quarterly guidance. You know that it's going to be in steady ship. So now for HDFC Bank to catch up, it has to be a function of technicals. You know, that love affair which HDFC Bank enjoyed is actually not there. So from it being a backbencher, it has to come up. And for that to happen, more than numbers, you need flows and technicals, and which may not be a function of this number. My limited point is that HDFC Bank, based on these numbers, is unlikely to be at that big turn like we saw in Infosys, TCS, or for that matter, any other bank. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.